The Galactic Union's Grand Hall was filled with hundreds of alien species. The room was massive, built from shining metal and glowing crystals. In the center, a human delegation stood proudly, surrounded by towering creatures with scales, fur, and strange glowing eyes. Today was supposed to be a historic moment. After years of struggle, humanity had finally been accepted into the Galactic Union, a council of the most advanced species in the universe. It was a moment of pride, a symbol that Earth had become a true spacefaring civilization. But something was wrong. Captain Elias Voss stood at the front of the human delegation. He was tall, with sharp blue eyes and short dark hair. He had fought in wars before, but today he was here as a diplomat. He knew that the other species didn't respect humans yet. To them, humanity was young, weak, and unimportant. A tall, silver-skinned alien named Chancellor Varick stepped forward. He was the leader of the Galactic Union's ruling council. His voice echoed through the hall. As a gift to welcome humans into the stars, we present you with a starship. A massive screen behind him flickered to life. The image of a spaceship appeared. The room filled with laughter. Elias's fists clenched as he stared at the ship. It wasn't a gift. It was an insult. The ship was a wreck. Its hull was covered in rust and scorch marks. Its engines looked old and damaged. The design was ancient, something that should have been scrapped centuries ago. A heavy-set, reptilian alien smirked. "This is the Rustwing." "It is. An old model," he said, barely hiding his amusement. "We are sure humans will find it useful." More laughter. Some aliens whispered to each other, shaking their heads. Elias didn't react. He just kept looking at the ship. His crew stood behind him, their expressions shifting from anger to something else. Curiosity. To anyone else, the Rustwing was junk. But to a human engineer, it was potential. A closer look. Hours later, Elias and his crew stood inside the ship. It was even worse up close. The corridors were dark, the walls covered in dust. The smell of burned metal and oil filled the air. Half the lights didn't work. A voice crackled from the ship's intercom. "Warning. System failure. Structural integrity at 32%. Reactor unstable." Chief Engineer Sienna Carter ran her fingers across the control panel. She was short, with wild curly hair and a sharp mind. "This ship should be dead," she muttered. "How is it even holding together?" First Officer Adrian Kane sighed. "They gave us a flying coffin." Elias grinned. "Then we'll turn it into a war machine." His crew turned to him, surprised. "Sir?" Kane asked. Elias placed a hand on the rusted wall. "They expect us to fail. They want us to give up." He looked at his team, his voice strong. "But humans don't give up. We adapt. We improve. We survive. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. We are going to fix this ship, and when we're done, the whole galaxy will regret laughing at us." A slow grin spread across Sienna's face. "Now that sounds like a challenge." First problem: the engine. The first step was getting the Rustwing to fly. The ship's engine was beyond repair. Even with all the tools they had, the original power core was useless. Sienna crossed her arms. "We need a new engine." Kane raised an eyebrow. "You're saying we build one from scratch?" Elias nodded. "Not just any engine. A better one. Faster, stronger, smarter." Sienna smirked. "Then we're going to need some parts, and I know exactly where to find them." Elias turned toward the ship's broken controls and activated the navigation system. "Set course for the nearest scrapyard." The Rustwing trembled, engine sparking as it prepared for takeoff. The humans were not giving up. They were getting started. The Rustwing trembled as it landed on the edge of an old scrapyard station floating in deep space. The ship groaned, its damaged hull barely holding together. Sparks flickered from the control panels. The reactor made a low, unsettling hum, like a dying beast struggling to breathe. Inside the cockpit, Captain Elias Voss watched the landing indicators turn red. His first officer, Adrian Kane, sat beside him, arms crossed. "We barely made it," Kane muttered. Elias smirked. "But we did." From behind them, Chief Engineer Sienna Carter leaned against the doorway, wiping grease from her hands. Her curly hair was tied back, but strands still fell loose around her face. "This ship is a disaster," she said. "Engines are dead. Shields don't exist. Life support is running on backup systems." She gave Elias a pointed look. "Tell me again why we didn't just steal a better ship." Elias chuckled. "Because we're not thieves. We're builders." Sienna sighed. "Then we better start building. Fast." The hunt for parts. The scrapyard station was massive. An abandoned docking bay filled with broken starships, rusted hulls, and piles of discarded technology. It floated in the darkness of space like a forgotten graveyard of old machines. Elias led his team through the wreckage, flashlights cutting through the dim light. The air smelled of oil, metal, and time. "What exactly are we looking for?" Kane asked. Sienna checked her datapad. "A functional fusion core, a shield generator, anything we can use to patch up the rustwing." Elias nodded. "Spread out. If you find anything useful, call it in." The crew split into small teams, searching through the wreckage. A lucky find, or a dangerous one. Half an hour later, Sienna's voice crackled through the comms. "Captain, you're gonna want to see this." Elias and Kane hurried through the scrapyard until they found her standing beside a massive, half-buried engine core. The metal casing was old but still intact. Strange alien markings covered its surface. "What is it?" Elias asked. Sienna grinned. "Excelvary fusion core. These things are legendary. Twice the power of anything the Galactic Union gives out. If we install this, Rustwing won't just fly. It'll outrun almost anything in the fleet." Kane raised an eyebrow. "What's the catch?" Sienna hesitated. "It's experimental. It wasn't meant for human ships. If we mess up the installation, it could explode." Elias crossed his arms. "Do we have any other choice?" Sienna shook her head. "Not if you want this ship to fly." Elias smirked. "Then let's get to work." Sabotage in the dark. Back on the Rustwing, the crew worked through the night. Sparks flew as Sienna's team cut into the ship's engine bay. Wires were rerouted, metal plates were welded, and the new fusion core was carefully lowered into place. But something wasn't right. Kane stood watch near the ship's entrance when he noticed movement in the shadows. A figure, small, quick, darted between the crates. His hand went to his blaster. "We have company." Before he could react, an explosion rocked the ship. Fire burst from the lower decks. The crew was thrown off their feet. Sabotage. Elias pulled himself up, coughing through the smoke. "Report." Sienna's voice came through the comms. Panicked. "The fuel lines. Someone cut them. We're losing pressure." Kane ran toward the fire, blaster drawn. The figure that had caused the explosion was already escaping. A small, insect-like alien in a dark cloak. He fired. A warning shot. The figure hissed and vanished into the scrapyard. Kane cursed. "They got away." Elias clenched his jaw. "They don't want us to succeed." Asterisk, 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 which means we're on the right track. The Rustwing rises. By dawn, the crew had repaired the damage. The fusion core hummed with power. The ship's systems flickered to life. Sienna wiped sweat from her brow. "We did it." Elias sat in the captain's chair, hands gripping the controls. The Rustwing felt different. Alive. Powerful. He pressed a button. The ship's engines flared, sending out a deep, thrumming sound that echoed through space. For the first time since they had been given this wreck, the Rustwing wasn't dying. It was reborn. Elias smiled. "Let's show the galaxy what humans can do." The Rustwing floated in deep space, its new engines humming like a heartbeat. Inside the ship, Captain Elias Voss stood at the command deck, watching the glowing controls. For the first time, the ship felt alive. "Status report," he ordered. Chief Engineer Sienna Carter leaned against a console, wiping grease from her hands. "Engines are stable. Shields at 50%. Weapons, well, we still need to test them." First Officer Adrian Kane smirked. "Let's hope we don't have to." But the universe was not that kind. A red light flashed on the main screen. A warning alarm echoed through the bridge. "Incoming vessel detected," said the ship's AI in a cold, robotic voice. Elias narrowed his eyes as the display showed an approaching warship. The sleek, sharp-edged design belonged to the Xelvari, a powerful alien race that hated humans. The ship's comms crackled to life. A deep, mocking voice filled the bridge. "Human vessel, this is Captain Dravik of the Xelvari Dominion. You should not be here." Elias folded his arms. "Last I checked, space belongs to everyone." Dravik laughed, a low, growling sound. "No, space belongs to the strong, and humans are weak." Kane sighed. "They always say that." The screen flickered, revealing Dravik's reptilian face, dark scales, sharp fangs, and glowing yellow eyes. "That ship of yours is junk. Surrender now, and I may let you live." Elias smirked. "You think this ship is weak?" Dravik's eyes narrowed. "I know it is." Elias leaned forward. "Then come find out." The transmission cut off. The Xelvari ship charged its weapons. The fight was on. The first strike. The Rustwing lurched forward, engines roaring, as Elias took the controls. The Xelvari warship fired first, 3 plasma bolts streaking through the darkness. "Brace!" Kane shouted. The ship shook violently as the shots hit the shields. Sparks flew from the consoles. "Shields down to 20%. Sienna called out. Elias gritted his teeth. "Return fire." The Rustwing's cannons glowed. Twin energy blasts smashed into the enemy ship's hull. The Xelvari vessel shuddered, but its armor held strong. "That barely scratched them," Kane muttered. Elias smirked. "Then we hit harder." Fighting the human way. The Rustwing wasn't the strongest ship in the fight. It wasn't the fastest. But it had one advantage no alien ship had: human creativity. Elias gripped the controls. "Sienna, can you overload the engines for a short burst?" Sienna blinked. "You want more speed. That could blow us up." Elias grinned. "Only if you do it wrong." Sienna rolled her eyes but got to work. The ship shook violently as she rerouted power to the engines. The reactor groaned in protest. "Now, Captain," she shouted. Elias slammed the controls forward. The Rustwing shot upward, spinning at an impossible angle. The Xelvari ship tried to follow, but it was too slow. "We're behind them," Kane shouted. Elias didn't waste time. "Fire all weapons." Energy beams and missiles slammed into the enemy's engines. Metal tore apart. The Xelvari ship spiraled, flames bursting from its side. For the first time, Dravik looked afraid. Victory. The enemy ship struggled to regain control. Smoke filled their bridge. Dravik's voice crackled through the comms. This is not possible. That ship was supposed to be useless." Elias smirked. "Guess you underestimated humans." Dravik growled. "This isn't over." Then, the Xelvari ship activated its emergency warp drive and vanished into the darkness. A moment of silence filled the Rustwing's bridge. Then, Sienna laughed. "Did we just win?" Kane leaned back in his chair. "Oh yeah, we won." Elias exhaled, his smile widening. The whole galaxy thought humans were weak. They were wrong. And this was only the beginning. The Rustwing floated silently in deep space, its hull still scared from the battle. Inside, the crew was celebrating their unexpected victory. "Did you see their faces?" Kane laughed, leaning back in his chair. That Xelvari captain looked like he swallowed a grenade. Sienna smirked. They thought we were weak. Now, they know better. She patted the engine controls. This ship might be old, but she's got teeth now. Elias sat at the command deck, watching the stars. His smile was small but satisfied. They had survived their first fight, but something still felt off. Then the alarm blared. The celebration stopped. Red lights flashed across the control panels. The ship's AI spoke in its cold, robotic voice. Incoming transmission. High-priority message from the Galactic Union. Elias frowned. Let's hear it. The main screen flickered to life, showing an official-looking alien with gray skin and 4 glowing eyes. It was Counselor Varric, a powerful figure in the Galactic Union. His voice was sharp and emotionless. Attention, Captain Elias Voss of the Rustwing. You have violated interstellar combat laws. A bounty has been placed on your crew. Surrender immediately. A heavy silence filled the bridge. Bounty, Kane muttered. Are they serious? Sienna crossed her arms. So we win one fight, and suddenly we're criminals. Elias's jaw clenched. This was a setup. They weren't punished for breaking laws. They were punished for proving humanity was stronger than expected. How much? Elias asked. The screen changed, showing a massive number in galactic credits. It was a fortune. Sienna whistled. That's bad. Kane sighed. Every bounty hunter in the galaxy is going to come after us. Elias stood, his voice calm. Then we get ready. A dangerous welcome. They needed a place to hide, resupply, and figure out their next move. The Rustwing set course for Argos 7, a lawless trading station built into a shattered moon. It was a haven for smugglers, criminals, and bounty hunters, the perfect place to disappear. As they landed, Elias gave a warning. Stay sharp. We're not welcome here. The station was dark, its metal corridors filled with flickering neon lights. Strange alien merchants whispered in hidden corners, and armed guards watched everyone closely. Sienna checked her datapad. I can get us parts, but we need money. Kane smirked. Then let's find a job. They split up. Sienna went to the repair bays, Kane scouted for work, and Elias felt eyes on him. Someone was watching. He turned a corner and found a shadowy figure waiting. A woman with silver cybernetic eyes and a sharp, confident smile. Captain Voss, she said smoothly. You're worth a lot of money. Elias didn't reach for his weapon. Not yet. And you are. She chuckled. Just a friendly bounty hunter. Friendly bounty hunters don't exist. Asterisk, 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 fair point. She leaned closer. You embarrassed the wrong people. The Selvari want you dead. The Galactic Union wants you locked up. But me, I want to make a deal. Elias raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. An offer they can't refuse. Back on the Rustwing, the crew gathered in the briefing room. The bounty hunter, Lyra Kane, stood at the center, arms crossed. Here's the deal, she said. The Selvari are hiding something big. A secret project. You embarrassed them, so they want you out of the way before you find out. Kane frowned. And why do you care? Lyra smirked. Because if you help me steal it, I'll clear your bounty. Silence. Sienna looked at Elias. This could be a trap. Kane leaned back, or it could be our only shot. Elias thought for a moment. The bounty had changed everything. They couldn't run forever. If they wanted to survive, they had to fight back. He met Lyra's gaze. Tell me where to start. Lyra grinned. Welcome to the real war, Captain. The Rustwing floated in the dark void, hidden behind a shattered asteroid field. Inside, the crew gathered around the holographic display, studying the map Lyra Kane had provided. This is insane, Kane muttered, arms crossed. We're talking about sneaking into a Selvari research station. You know, the same Selvari who want us dead, which is exactly why we need to do this, Elias said, his voice calm. They put a bounty on us because they're afraid we'll find out what they're hiding. I want to know why. Lyra smirked. Good answer, Captain. She tapped the display. The station orbits a dead moon. It's heavily guarded, but their security focuses on stopping warships, not small teams. Sienna sighed. So we just sneak in, steal their secret, and escape before they vaporize us. Lyra grinned. Exactly. Kane groaned. I hate this plan. But there was no turning back. Infiltrating the Selvery station. The Rustwing approached the station under complete silence, using the asteroid field to hide its movement. Lyra, Elias, Kane, and Sienna boarded a stolen Selvery shuttle, disguised in armored suits taken from a previous battle. The suits hid their human features, and the stolen ID codes should get them through the first security checkpoint. Everyone remembered the plan. Elias asked as they entered the station's docking bay. Find the secret, get out alive, Kane muttered, and hope we don't get caught. The shuttle landed smoothly. The bay was massive, filled with sleek black Selvery ships. The elite guards patrolled the area, their reptilian faces hidden behind dark helmets. As the crew stepped onto the deck, a Selvery officer approached. Identification, the alien demanded. Lyra handed over a small data chip. The officer scanned it, his yellow eyes narrowing. You are not on the scheduled list. Elias held his breath. This was bad. Lyra didn't flinch. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. We're on special orders from High Command. Do you want to explain to your superiors why you delayed us? The officer hesitated. Then, with a slow nod, he stepped aside. Proceed. As they moved past him, Kane exhaled. That was too close. Lyra smirked. You worry too much. The truth about the project. They moved deeper into the station, past laboratories and storage rooms filled with advanced Selvery technology. Sienna hacked into a console, her fingers flying over the controls. I'm in. Downloading the files now. Elias and Kane stood guard, weapons ready. The air felt heavy with danger. Then the screen flickered, revealing Project Blackstorm. Sienna's eyes widened. Oh no. Kane stepped closer. What is it? Sienna swallowed hard. They're building a warship. No, not just any warship. A hunter-killer designed to track and destroy human ships. It's faster, stronger, and completely invisible to sensors. Elias's jaw tightened. A ship built to wipe out humanity. Lyra nodded. Now you see why I needed you. We have to stop this. Sienna finished the download. Got it. But we need to move. Security might notice the breach soon. Elias turned. Then let's get out of here. The escape and the betrayal. As they retraced their steps, alarms blared through the station. Security breach detected. Intruders in Sector 7. Well, that didn't take long, Kane muttered. Selvery soldiers rushed in, weapons raised. The crew ducked behind cover as laser fire rained down. We need another exit, Elias shouted. Lyra scanned the area. That way. There's a cargo bay with escape pods. They ran through the station, dodging gunfire. Sienna threw a small explosive behind them. Boom. The shockwave sent Selvery soldiers flying. They reached the cargo bay. The escape pods were lined up, ready to launch. But then, Lyra turned her blaster on them. Sorry, Captain, she said, eyes cold. But I need to make sure this information gets to the right buyer. Kane cursed. You backstabbing. Before he could finish, Selvery soldiers burst into the room. Lyra smirked. Good luck. Then, she vanished into an escape pod and launched into space. Betrayed, trapped, surrounded. Elias clenched his fists. We're not dying today. Kane grinned. Then let's make them regret chasing us. The battle wasn't over yet. Blaster fire filled the cargo bay, red energy bolts cutting through the air as Selvery soldiers stormed in. Elias, Kane, and Sienna dove behind cover, their backs pressed against a stack of metal crates. "Lyra betrayed us," Kane growled, gripping his rifle. "I knew she was trouble." "Forget her," Elias snapped. "We need to get out of here, alive." Sienna tapped furiously on her datapad, sweat dripping down her forehead. "I can hack the security doors. Give me a minute." "We don't have a minute," Kane muttered. He peeked over the crate and fired. One shot, two shots. One Selvari went down, but more kept coming. Elias gritted his teeth. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and trapped. And then, the doors exploded. A rush of flames and smoke filled the bay as Rustwing's auto turrets came online, spraying fire into the Selvari forces. The enemy scrambled for cover as the ship hovered just outside the bay doors, its ramp lowering. "Our ride's here," Sienna shouted. "Run," Elias ordered. A desperate escape. The crew sprinted across the bay, dodging laser fire. Sienna nearly tripped, but Kane grabbed her arm, dragging her forward. The Selvari regrouped. One raised a heavy plasma launcher and aimed at the Rustwing. Elias saw it too late. Boom! The explosion shook the entire station. The shockwave sent them flying. Metal beams collapsed. Smoke and debris filled the air. Elias coughed, struggling to push himself up. His ears rang. He could barely see through the dust. A strong hand grabbed his arm. Kane, pulling him up. "Come on, Captain, move." Sienna was already inside the Rustwing, firing the ship's guns to hold back the Selvari. The ship was their only chance. Elias pushed forward, his body aching. One last jump, and he landed on the ramp. Kane followed, rolling inside as the Rustwing's doors sealed shut. "Go, go, go," Kane shouted. Sienna didn't wait. The Rustwing's engines roared, and they blasted away from the station. The moment they hit open space, multiple ships appeared on the radar. Selvari warships. "They're launching fighters," Sienna warned. Elias gripped the controls. "Then we fight." Battle in the void. The Selvari ships closed in fast. Rustwing was smaller but faster, dodging between enemy fire. "Shields at 40%, Sienna called out. Kane manned the weapons, teeth gritted. "I'll give them something to worry about." The ship's cannons lit up, firing rapid bursts of energy. A Selvari fighter exploded into flames. "Nice shot," Elias shouted, spinning the ship through the chaos. But then, the main warship locked onto them. A bright energy beam charged on its bow, aimed directly at them. Elias's mind raced. They needed an edge. Then he saw it, a dense asteroid field nearby. "Hold on," he shouted, pushing the engines to their limit. The Rustwing dove into the asteroids, weaving between massive spinning rocks. The Selvari ships followed, but they weren't as fast. Boom! One crashed into a rock. Another spun out of control. But the warship was still on them. Sienna's hands flew over the controls. "I can overload the reactor. We'll get one massive speed boost, but then we're dead in space." Elias nodded. "Do it." The ship rumbled. Energy surge. The engines screamed. Then, the Rustwing shot forward like a comet, breaking past the asteroid field in a flash. The Selvari warship tried to follow, but it was too slow. By the time it emerged, the Rustwing was already gone, back from the dead. The ship drifted in deep space, its engines dead. Lights flickered. Smoke filled the halls. Kane groaned, rubbing his head. That was intense. Sienna exhaled. "We're alive, aren't we?" Elias leaned back in his chair, breathing hard. They had escaped. Barely. But the war wasn't over. The Selvari still had Project Blackstorm, and Lyra still had the stolen data. Kane cracked his knuckles. "I say we hunt her down and take back what's ours." Elias nodded. Agreed. They weren't running anymore. Now, they were going to fight back. The Rustwing drifted in deep space, silent but not broken. The ship's engines were still recovering from the last battle, but Elias and his crew had no time to waste. Lyra Kane had betrayed them, stolen the data on Project Blackstorm, and vanished. But Elias knew where she was going. "She'll sell the data to the highest bidder," Sienna said, studying her console. "And I've tracked her signal to Excelveri battleship near the Dead Zone Nebula." Kane cracked his knuckles. "Good. Time to settle the score." Elias sat in the captain's chair, staring at the star map. "This is our last shot. We stop her here, or humanity is doomed." Sienna smirked. "Then let's make history." Into the lion's den. The Rustwing approached the Excelveri battleship, a massive dark vessel floating near a swirling red nebula. The crew had no reinforcements, no backup, just their wits and firepower. "We go in fast," Elias said. "Disable their engines, board the ship, and get that data back." "And what about Lyra?" Kane asked. Elias's jaw tightened. She made her choice. The ship's alarms beeped. "They've spotted us," Sienna called out. The battleship's guns roared to life, firing a volley of plasma bolts. "Evasive maneuvers," Elias shouted, gripping the controls. The Rustwing spun through the firestorm, dodging between energy blasts. Kane fired back, taking out two smaller Excelveri fighter escorts. "We need to get closer." Elias pushed the ship forward, diving beneath the battleship's hull. Sienna hacked into their systems, overriding the docking bay's defenses. "We're in," she shouted. The Rustwing crashed into the docking bay, its ramp lowering as Elias, Kane, and Sienna rushed out, blasters ready, face to face. The hangar was filled with Excelveri soldiers, and at the center stood Lyra Kane, her pistol aimed at them. "You don't give up, do you?" she said, smirking. Elias stepped forward. "Give me the data." Lyra shook her head. "I'm selling this to the Excelveri. You think humanity stands a chance. Project Blackstorm will wipe you out. But me," she grinned, "I'll be rich." Kane growled, stepping forward, but Elias raised a hand to stop him. "You don't understand, Lyra," Elias said. "They won't let you live. You're just another loose end." Lyra hesitated for a split second, and that's when the Excelveri commander stepped forward. "You have served your purpose, human," the alien sneered. "Now die." The commander raised his weapon and fired. Lyra barely had time to react. The energy blast hit her square in the chest. She gasped, eyes wide, and collapsed to the ground. Elias didn't have time to think. "Take cover," he shouted. "The last stand." Blasters flashed as the battle erupted inside the docking bay. Kane and Elias fired back, taking down Excelveri soldiers one by one. Sienna used a shock grenade. Boom, knocking out the guards near the exit. Elias rushed to Lyra, who lay gasping on the floor. "Told you," he muttered. She coughed, blood on her lips. "Guess, I made the wrong bet." With her last breath, she handed him the data chip. "Don't waste it." Then she was gone. Elias closed his hand around the chip. "We have what we came for," he called out. "Now we leave." The crew fought their way back to the Rustwing, dodging heavy fire. Sienna hacked the doors shut behind them, buying time. As soon as they were aboard, Elias punched the engines to full power. The ship blasted out of the hangar, dodging the Excelveri's last desperate shots. Jumping to light speed, Sienna yelled. The stars stretched into infinity. And then they were gone. A new dawn. Back in safe space, the crew sat in silence. The battle was over. They had the data. "We did it," Kane said, exhaling. Elias held up the chip. Project Blackstorm was now in their hands. Sienna leaned back. "So what now?" Elias looked out at the stars. "Now we give humanity a fighting chance." The Rustwing turned toward Earth, toward the final war. End of story.